because I was ignoring him. I'm looking out the window everywhere else. I was not paying him a bit of attention. He said something, and I realized, I said, oh, he's talking to me. And as soon as I turned, it went off. And I said, you shot me? And I went to reach for the door, and he said, bitch, I'll shoot you again. He raped me, and that was disgusting to me. I don't know if I passed out again, but the next time I came to, he was taking pictures. Yeah, freak. I said, oh no, I've really got to get out of this. He turned the car and started driving off, and I remember getting the lockup. I opened the door, and as I opened the door, he also pushed me out the door at the same time. And I remember rolling in the street and laying there. Then this voice was telling me, get out the street. Get out of the street.
In the mid-'80s, crack was sweeping the country, especially in the Los Angeles area. Crime was at an all-time high. Jill Stewart, former editor of LA Weekly, says conditions were perfect for a serial killer.
I think it allowed serial killers to operate in silence. You couldn't tell who was killing who. We just called it random violence.
So when Deborah Jackson's body was found in an alley, police assumed it was a drug deal gone wrong. Until the bodies of more and more women start piling up. Henrietta Wright and Barbara Ware are shot to death, and their partially naked bodies are found in dark alleys.
Yes, I like to report a murder or a dead body.
Police receive a 911 call from a man who claims he witnessed someone dump Barbara Ware's body.
Only thing you can see out is her feet.
Police suspect that the caller could actually be Barbara's killer, but have no proof.
What's your name?
Oh, I was at the nine.
With 3 women killed and disposed of in a similar way, thoughts that a serial killer is on the loose in LA start to surface.
They were checking vehicles, cars, people. So many people were questions that there was people who they thought possibly could have been the suspect.
Then Bernita Sparks is found dead, but she is found in a dumpster instead of an alleyway, which questions the serial killer theory. Investigators are stumped when Mary Lowe is found dead in an alleyway. Police catch a break when a witness tells them that he saw Mary get into an orange Pinto with a man. But before police can make any progress on the Pinto, Lucretia Jefferson is found dead in an alley. The killer had a definitive MO and pattern with his victims. Most of them had cocaine in their bodies. Police suspect the killer was luring women into his car with the promise of drugs, but giving them death instead.
I think when someone got feisty with him or they had an attitude with him, those are the ones he chose to kill.
After being missing for 2 weeks, 18-year-old Alicia Alexander's body is found in an alley. Police connect 7 of the murders to each other, with each victim being shot with a .25 caliber handgun. But the key finding would be in the DNA. All of the victims were swabbed, and it all matched. However, DNA was not an advanced tool at the time. The CODIS system didn't exist, and there was no database.
He was still a needle in a haystack.
According to Jill Stewart, instead of warning the public, the LAPD decided to keep their serial killer theory a secret.
They were trying to figure out who he was. They didn't want to spook him, send him out of state, for example. He just thinks he's free to go ahead and keep doing what his evil son of a bitch has been doing all this time.
The killer was on the prowl for his 8th victim when he encountered Anitra Washington. When Anitra accepted a ride from a friendly man in an orange Pinto, she had no idea what lied ahead.
Because I was ignoring him. I'm looking out the window everywhere else. I was not paying him a bit of attention. He said something, and I realized, I said, oh, he's talking to me. And as soon as I turned, it went off. And I said, you shot me? And I went to reach for the door, and he said, bitch, I'll shoot you again. He raped me, and that was disgusting to me. I don't know if I passed out again, but the next time I came to, he was taking pictures. Yeah, freak. I said, oh no, I've really got to get out of this. He turned the car and started driving off, and I remember getting the lockup. I opened the door. And as I opened the door, he also pushed me out the door at the same time. And I remember rolling in the street and laying there. Then this voice was telling me, get out the street. Get out of the street.
Doctors are able to remove a .25 caliber bullet from her chest. And when tested for ballistics, it's a match to the 7 other victims. LAPD finally had someone who had seen the killer, and she helped police create this sketch of the suspect. The same .25 caliber bullet, the same DNA. Still, the LAPD decided to keep the serial killer theory a secret. But then, the killings suddenly stop, and the killer fades into silence. The LA Weekly dubs the killer the Grim Sleeper. The LAPD is frustrated, but certain that the killer is not ready to stop, and believes he is laying low because he knows Anitra survived.
He was the longest running serial killer in the United States west of the Mississippi. He'd been operating longer than anyone else that was known. And he stopped for 13 years, or it looked like he did.
The killer awakens from his slumber after 13 years and kills 15-year-old runaway Princess Berthomew and 35-year-old Valerie McCorvey. But this time, the women are strangled. It wouldn't be long before he returned to his primary MO. The body of 17-year-old mother, Janicia Peters, was found shot and stuffed in a garbage bag. By 2007, DNA analysis had greatly advanced, but there were still no matches in any database for the killer.
Sometimes you get a murder and you just can't solve it. You give everything you got and you just can't solve it.
In 2010, genetic genealogy was emerging as a new DNA tool. By searching public family databases, the killer's DNA can be used to find other DNA specimens that belong to the same family. Investigators were able to identify matching family DNA. The DNA belonged to Chris Franklin, son of Lonnie Franklin Jr., a retired garbage man from LA. Chris was too young to commit the murders, so the focus was now on Lonnie. Investigators had to find a way to get a sample of Lonnie Franklin Jr.'s DNA. They learned of a child's birthday party he was going to attend at a local restaurant and disguised themselves as employees. The disguised officers collected the dirty silverware, glasses, and some pizza crust for testing. The LAPD were able to get a full DNA profile. Investigators served a warrant on Lonnie Franklin's home and found a pile of evidence, including photos of some of his victims, including Anitra Washington. Police take Franklin in for questioning.
And that involves a young lady. And I'm going to ask you, show you a photograph of this young lady and see if you recognize her. Okay, in 2003, this young lady was found killed. Have you ever seen her? Okay, 2002, this young lady was found. Do you recognize her? No, I don't. Princess. In 1988, this young lady, Alicia Alexander. Was found. This young lady, Lucretia Jefferson. No. This young lady here, Mary Lowe was her name. This young lady here, her name was Bernita Sparks.
Wow, she looked heavy.
Why?
No, you said she looked fat.
No. This young lady here. Her name is Barbara Ware. No, never saw her before. No, nothing about it.
Nothing about it.
This young lady, Deborah Jackson. all of these people that you say you don't know, through scientific evidence, are all pointing the finger at Lonnie David Franklin Jr. Sit there and look at their faces, all staring at you, pointing that finger at you.
The families of the victims finally get their day in court.
The theory of the defense is basically equivalent to the skies opening up, a spaceship descending, and murdering all these women.
Lonnie Franklin Jr., the Grim Sleeper, was convicted of killing 10 women in the attempted murder of Anitra Washington. His sentence? The death penalty. Anitra Washington wants people to forget about the Grim Sleeper and remember all the victims.
I pray this is peace for them. That's really the ultimate. Because I'm still here. I'm here by the grace of God. I'm still here. They're not.